Did you see, Stu, that Gina Carano has just won a lawsuit against Disney?
Yeah. That doesn't normally happen, does it?
No, it really
Disney has some big lawyers.
No. And there's a reason for that. Walt Disney learned his lesson at about 29 or 30 something. He had Oswald the Rabbit, and he leaves them. He leaves Universal, and he's like, don't worry. And Universal's like, all right, well, go ahead. And he's like, you're not afraid because I got Oswald the Rabbit. And they're like, no, actually, we have Oswald the Rabbit. And he had already quit. He had already put the gears into motion, and he had nothing.
Oh, and he didn't realize he didn't own that IP.
He had no idea.
Wow.
So he gets on a train, and his brother is freaking out on the West Coast. He's like, wait a minute, what? And he's like, yeah, well, don't worry, I got something else. He had nothing. He gets on the train, and he starts doodling, and on a napkin, he draws a Mickey Mouse.
This is why you love him so much, these stories.
Oh, yeah, I love it.
He risked everything, and he had actually nothing. Yeah. But then he made it up afterwards, and it all worked out.
It all worked out. Anyway, what are you saying? So he was bound and determined, I will never be behind the 8 ball ever again. So he created the nastiest attorney firm in the history of the world. I don't think there's any corporation that is more nasty than the Disney Corporation. Here we have 2 stories now. We have Gina Carano, and the last time I saw somebody win was Sage Steele.
Yeah, that's right.
That's 2 women that have beaten Disney. I think that's remarkable. I wanted to call our good friend Sage Steele, get her on. Sage, how are you?
Hello, Glenn. I'm great. Thank you. And I'm so happy for Gina. It's not over yet, but this is a major battle that she won.
Right. She actually, now Disney has to turn over information about how everybody is, paid on The Mandalorian and any other Star Wars shows. And they didn't want to do that. But would you agree with me, Sage, that that's a remarkable win?
Absolutely. It's a huge win. And also, Disney's delay tactics have just been ongoing, and they lost that too a couple of months ago when they were trying to get the lawsuit thrown out altogether, and judge said, let's go, quit procrastinating. And so this is massive, because when you look at how they paid other stars on these projects, Pedro Pascal, Rosario Dawson, other people. Basically, this is about Disney trying to hide what they've been paying those people this whole time, while allowing them to go off on social media. And Pedro Pascal, comparing Donald Trump to Hitler, one of those, and that's fine to do on your social media. But Gina Carano gets fired. So now that they have to reveal these financial records, this goes to show what Gina would have made had they not wrongly terminated her. And this is a major, major victory.
So what is it like when you realize, oh, good Lord, they're sending the mouse with the briefcase my way? What is that like when you realize you're in a lawsuit against Disney?
Well, first of all, filing the lawsuit against Disney is not fun.
Right.
And it's
did
scary,
everybody in the room when you said that, would everybody go, what did you just say you're going to do?
Yeah, you idiot.
Yeah.
I mean, David versus Goliath for sure. I had Gina on my show last summer, and I hadn't met her. I, of course, had followed her story. And when we met, we just hugged. And it was an emotional episode because we both understood in a very unique way that I hope many others don't have to understand, the fear that comes with it. But at some point, you get pushed around enough and you say, no, this is wrong. And if I stay silent, then it's on me. And then I know personally, I couldn't have looked myself in the mirror, and Gina felt the same way. And she has worked so hard and done so professionally, to the nth degree for all those years. Gina's the one thing I didn't have, and my attorney is the best in the business, Brian Friedman, who represented Megyn Kelly, who represents Tucker Carlson, who's representing Justin Baldoni against crazy Blake Lively right now. My attorney is the best, and he is a dear friend of mine now, too. Gina has Elon Musk on her side.
Wait.
Financially, she's in a little different situation than me because Elon Musk is footing the bill for her because he's standing up for what's right and the First Amendment.
So you look at Gina. What do you think you have? What was it that you bonded with on that episode that you did?
Initially, I think it was the obvious, okay, wow, two people who stood up to Disney, two women. Like,
Yeah.
what happened? Like, who are we? What happened to our lives? And it was just that obvious bond because it was such a big deal and people going, whoa. But more so, it was the betrayal that we felt coming from what we once thought was the best company on earth. And such an honor to work with them and for them. And then when you realize that you are just cast aside because you didn't believe what they wanted us to believe, which goes against everything they preach, diversity of thought and acceptance and inclusion and all of those things, you realize that they were full of it. And people that you looked up to, people that you worked alongside for years and years and years, and what they said about you publicly and privately, certainly never to your face. There was just a real sense of loss for relationships because Gina is as tough as they get. I have realized that I'm tougher than I thought and never wanted to be, but Gina is as tough as they get. And she was hurt. I think that's kind of, and this is not like, oh, woe is me. We never, Gina doesn't want sympathy. This is about what's right. And calling these companies out, and that's the other thing we bonded on, is calling these companies out, the biggest companies in the world, because if we don't and expose it because we have the ability based on platforms that we've, it's a blessing to have had these platforms, right? If we don't use them to expose and therefore hopefully maybe fingers crossed prevent other companies from doing the same BS to women, men, anywhere, doesn't matter. Black, white, green, blue, LGBT, I don't care. Just treat us equally and not punishing us if we don't agree with what you say. Because, by the way, you're going to say this today and that tomorrow. Who can keep up?
Right.
Diversity of thought, First Amendment. And so we bonded over so much. And I admire her and her courage to continue this because she completely threw her career away as well, as people said I did. But look, she's standing up for what's right. And Glenn, I told you when we were together last month doing your show in Texas, the harder right versus the easier wrong. Gina is doing the harder right. And that takes courage. I'm so honored to know her.
And I tell you, it doesn't, I think you grow from this. You're seeing new success. She's seeing new success. And you have become bigger than what you were in many ways because you're now a human success story. You now have experienced strife and trouble and come out the other side and realizing that didn't hurt so much. I mean, it hurt, but it didn't hurt like I thought it was going to hurt. I thought I was going to burn myself up, and I didn't. And so you become this additional success story that I think, you look at the, what's the woman who's now playing Snow White? Whatever her name is. Yeah. So, they're not firing her, which must drive you nuts. They're not firing her. And she tubed the crown jewel. I mean, next to Mickey Mouse, it is Snow White. And that's the movie that built that company. And for her to go in and destroy the story of Snow White, all of that money, because you guys weren't bleeding money on you and your point of view or her point of view. Absolutely not. Right?
Absolutely not. I mean, you figure no matter who's in office, about half the country agrees with you, right?
Yeah.
Which means the other half disagrees. It's usually right down the middle. And they could have gotten out of that mess with Rachel, I think, over a year ago when she first started to mouth off, and maybe too much had been invested. If nothing else, why don't you at least have a chat? Okay, fine, don't fire her like you did us. And I didn't get fired. I mean, we settled my lawsuit and I chose to leave. Gina was fired, though. Rachel was allowed to say much worse than I think Gina ever said, and I don't know who could disagree with that.
And you could show the direct damages. You could show the damages of her. Yeah.
Look at the numbers, exactly, and they chose to stick with her, and now look. So you reap what you sow for sure, but the double standard is the reason what must be called out, and they could have at least pulled Rachel aside and said, we need you to tamp down a little bit. This isn't good for business. Maybe they didn't. She didn't listen. If so, okay, that's a whole other story. But to your point about like what you gain when you do stand up, you realize it's just a lot bigger than you.
Yeah.
And when people come up to Gina and come up to me, and I've had fathers come up to me because they've been afraid to stand up for their daughters in sports and why are boys competing against their daughter because they're afraid to go to the school board meeting and get fired. The fear is real. Like, we know that. So I am so grateful that I chose to stand up, and I know Gina is, because the people that you are affecting just by doing that, standing up in her case for true freedom of speech, it is everything. It's so much bigger than any career I could have dreamt of having, and same with her. Disney is getting their comeuppance, and they need to, and they think it's so obvious. They do this to themselves, and that is why so many people were more than okay to see what's happening with the Snow White debacle. Shame on them.
I may switch subject here for a second, Stu. I'm doing something with the Diesel Brothers here in a couple of months, and I'm taking one of my 1934 race car out, and we're just going to open it up on a track, and two other cars. And you were leaving my studio, and you were going to the airport, and you were like, "I'll get an Uber," and I'm like, "No, I'll take you to the airport. I'm going that way." So I take you to the airport, and you are the biggest car hound I'd be broke if I were married to you, because you'd let me buy all the cars. My wife is like, "Stop it, stop."
I'd be like, "What are we buying this weekend, babe?"
I know.
Yeah, listen, the one thing I regret, the biggest regret I have in life right now, is that I didn't ask you for a selfie that day when Glenn Beck drove me to the airport. And what kind of car was that?
It was a Continental GTC.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And it was 4-screen, and it was stunning, and the top was down, and my wild hair was bigger than ever. And I'm like, no one's going to believe this, but I didn't want to be tacky and ask you, for a selfie. I know.
I want to make sure
the world knows.
I want to make sure you're going to come out when we do the Diesel Brothers thing. Stu is going to be there. I'm going to be there, and I'd love to have you, and you drive one of the cars.
Okay, is everybody listening? We can play this back. Glenn said you drive one of the cars.
Wait a minute. Wait. Before I say that, how are you doing on accidents? Do you have many accidents?
I can give me that stick shift. Let's go. No accidents. Not done. But I do have a little bit of a lead foot. But I mean, what a waste.
Yeah, I know.
If you don't take those cars and open them up.
Do you like electric engines? Not even an engine.
I've driven it like twice. I don't know. Listen, I appreciate how you barely tap it and then it's like whiplash and you're gone. Like, I appreciate that, but I guess I'm old school. Give me that clutch.
I know.
Let me do it.
I know.
That's the real strength and power.
Yeah.
You know, come on.
Sage, great talking to you. We'll talk again. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Glenn. Thank you. Take care.
Sage Steele, host of the Sage Steele Show. You can get that wherever you get your podcast and at sagesteele.com.